On July 12th, Mercury meets the Sun in Cancer, a Cazimi, the exact moment a planet is burned clean and reset at the heart of the light. But you do not have to wait for the 12th to feel it, because since June 29th, this retrograde has been quietly rewiring your emotional memory, circling one unfinished thing, the missing answer, the one about what really happened, what someone could not say, or what your future self is already asking you to choose. This is not about delayed messages or an ex sliding back in. This is the moment the fog thins and something long unreadable finally becomes clear. 3 answers are approaching, and one of them does not come from another person at all. So here is why this particular retrograde does not behave like the ones you have learned to brace for. Mercury stationed retrograde on June 29th at 26 degrees of Cancer, and it will not station direct until July 23rd at 16 degrees of the same sign. The entire window lives inside Cancer. No sign change, no escape hatch. Just one emotional territory, retraced again and again for nearly 4 weeks. And Cancer is not neutral ground. Cancer rules memory, home, roots, family patterns, and the quiet places where the heart first learned to hide. So Mercury backing through it does not simply scramble your inbox. It pulls submerged emotional truth back toward the surface. Now, here is what makes July 12th the turning point. A Cazimi is the moment Mercury enters the exact heart of the Sun, so close that confusion becomes signal, and what was obscured becomes readable. Which means the retrograde asks what you felt but never got to explain, and you may already feel it working. And here is how you already know. Because the symptoms have started. Old memories surface without warning. A face you had filed away appears in a dream, or a place you thought you had outgrown returns while you sleep. You find yourself rereading old messages, hunting for something you cannot name. Time bends. You feel younger, softer, more exposed than usual, as if a version of you from years ago is asking to be heard. Family wounds resurface, and underneath it all, the sense that someone once left a sentence unfinished. Notice the relational pressure too. You want an apology, yet you fear what contact might reopen. You need to know what a connection actually meant, and somewhere you can feel where another person's silence quietly shaped how much you believed you were worth. Maybe you are remembering a love that was real, but never safely named. Genuine, but performed in private. Hidden, undefined, or too complicated to exist in the open. None of this is malfunction. This is unfinished truth becoming readable. And the Cazimi is where it learns its name. So what exactly is this Cazimi bringing you? 3 answers. Not vague comfort, 3 specific pieces of truth. The first is the answer about what really happened. It arrives through memory, through emotional recognition, a scene suddenly clicking into a meaning you missed before. The second is the answer about what they can never say. That one comes through someone's words, or through their silence, which sometimes speaks louder. But the third answer is different. The third does not look backward at all. It does not explain the past. It changes what you allow next, the decision your future self is already reaching back to ask you to make. And here is the hidden key. This is not a new message from nowhere. It is an old signal, retrograde born, finally carried into the light. So let me anchor this in real time, because timing is everything now. Today is July 6th. You are already inside the window. This is not something approaching from a distance. Mercury is retrograde, retracing emotional ground it first touched on June 29th. And the pressure you feel is that retracing, reaching a threshold. Old clues, half-buried memories, unfinished feelings, they are already moving. Now, from today through July 11th, the signal grows louder. This is the approach. The volume rises daily. Then July 12th, Mercury enters the exact heart of the Sun at 20 degrees, 42 minutes of Cancer, the Cazimi. The single beam of clarity cutting through the retrograde fog. But the story does not close there. On July 23rd, Mercury stations direct at 16 degrees Cancer, giving what you learn room to breathe and expand. And here is what matters. For some of you, the answer begins arriving before the 12th even hits. And here is the first thing that returns. For many of you, the missing answer is not a text, not a knock at the door, not a voice from someone who disappeared. It is quieter than that and far more powerful. It is an old moment finally becoming readable, a memory that reorganizes itself, a pattern that suddenly speaks its own name. Because the Cazimi does not always deliver new information. Sometimes it delivers understanding of what was already there. So watch what surfaces. That silence you took personally was avoidance. That rejection was fear wearing a colder face. That connection was real, but the ground beneath it was never safe. That family conflict was never only about you. And that version of you that felt like too much or not enough was surviving something, not failing at it. For those who lived inside hidden love, or family silence, or a bond that could only exist behind a closed door, hear this clearly. The confusion was not proof you were wrong. The situation was structurally unsafe, and no amount of trying could have made it safe. But understanding what happened is not an invitation to go back. Clarity is not a return ticket. Now, if you could not read yourself back then, what could the other person not say? So here is the second thing the Cazimi returns. Not your silence this time. Theirs. Because when Mercury burns clean at the heart of the sun in Cancer, it does not only clarify what you felt, it clarifies what someone else could never bring themselves to say. And this answer can arrive in more than one form. They may say it. A message, an admission, something implied but finally spoken. They may reveal it through how they behave, through a softening, a return of attention, a truth that leaks out sideways, or you may finally understand it without them participating at all. Any of these is the answer. Watch for whichever one is yours. Now, for some of you, what they could not say was tied to who they were still trying to be. They could not name what you were to them, because naming it threatened the version of themselves they were performing for family, for community, for safety, for survival. Their silence may have been fear. It may also have been a choice that protected them at your expense. Both can be true, but here the distinction that matters. Understanding why someone could not choose you openly is not the same as learning you were wrong to want them to, and an explanation is not permission to reopen the door. So what do you do once you finally have the answer? You wait. That is what you do. You have the answer, and still your first instinct is to hold it up like a question, waiting for someone to confirm it is safe to feel. But here is the third thing the Cazimi returns, and it is the one you were not expecting. It is not about them at all, because Mercury does not clear only at the heart of the sun. It clears inside a retrograde, and a retrograde does not reach backward to hand you the past. It reaches backward to show you what your future self is already refusing to carry forward. So notice what surfaces when the noise goes quiet. The role you kept performing, the weight you called patience, the love that only ever existed in private, the apology you kept leaving a seat open for, the decision you froze years ago and told yourself was still pending. That is the answer. Not a message from outside, a recognition from inside. For some of you, it sounds like choosing safety over the intensity you mistook for love. For others, speaking directly instead of waiting for permission to want. Choosing the people who chose you over the silence you inherited. Naming a desire that has been waiting for someone else to approve it first. Here is the reframe that changes everything. The answer you have been waiting for may not be they are coming back. It may be you are allowed to move forward without their final sentence. Stop using uncertainty as a reason to stay frozen. And once you step through that, something else begins to move. And here is why it moves. Because this is not an ordinary conjunction. A Cazimi is the moment Mercury enters the exact heart of the sun. So close it is no longer burned by the light, but hidden inside it, and then revealed by it. Inside a retrograde, that changes everything. The confusion itself becomes the clarity. Here is the mechanism. Mercury has been retrograde in Cancer since June the 29th, dragging back through the same emotional degrees again and again. The memories that resurfaced, the unfinished conversation that would not close. The deja vu you could not explain. That was not random noise. That was Mercury retracing the exact territory this answer lives in. And on July the 12th, that retracing finally reaches the sun. So understand what that means. This answer is retrograde born. It was not sent from your future. It was already sitting in your past, waiting for enough light to be read correctly. The answer was never missing from the universe. It was only missing from the light. That is what changes now. And once it becomes readable, something in your daily life begins to move differently. But here is what most people expect wrong. They wait for the aftermath to feel dramatic. It rarely does. It feels like an old silence losing its grip on you. A message that used to freeze you now reads plainly. A family wound that had no shape suddenly has a name. Watch for these signals. A frozen decision starts moving on its own. Chosen family begins to feel more like home than obligation ever did. The intensity you once mistook for love stops competing with the safety you actually need. Old emotional roles you carried for years collapse without a single argument. Now understand the timing. This integration continues through July the 23rd, when Mercury stations direct. The Cazimi opens the clarity. The direct station gives you room to act on it. So do not expect the answer to hand you everything your old self wanted. But it can give you enough truth to stop waiting in the same place. And that is the threshold you are standing on right now. So here is what this threshold finally asks of you. The answer was never meant to pull you backward. It arrived so you could stop building your entire future around a question someone else left unanswered. Understand the three truths together now. What really happened was never your confusion to carry alone. What they could not say was about their limits, not your worth. And what you choose next no longer waits for anyone's permission. You are standing at the edge of a new timeline. Mercury Cazimi in Cancer is moving toward you. The answer may come as a message, a memory, a sudden silence, or a decision you finally make, but it is moving. Subscribe to stay inside these cosmic updates through July 23rd. Thank you for standing here with me.